In the 1820s, President John Quincy Adams, famous for his intelligence and curiosity, financed one of the most bizarre expeditions in American history, an attempt to find hidden civilizations beneath the Earth's surface, inspired by the Hollow Earth theory. But this story is just the beginning. From psychic espionage during the Cold War to the bizarre postal loopholes that allowed parents to mail their children, this tale is filled with incredible moments that blur the line between science, fantasy, and government secrecy. President Quincy Adams was an extraordinary man. He spoke 7 languages, served on the Supreme Court after his presidency, and his IQ was estimated at 175, even higher than Einstein's. So it may come as a surprise that he funded one of the strangest missions in American history. In the 1820s, in Washington, D.C., President Adams was presented with an unusual request. Was it to explore new territories or trade routes? Number it was to fund an expedition that would send search teams deep into the Earth's surface, hoping to discover subterranean worlds and possibly trade with the people who might live there. Some believed Adams was a supporter of the Hollow Earth theory. The Hollow Earth theory, suggesting that the Earth might be hollow and contain hidden civilizations, dates back to the ancient Greeks. However, it gained popularity in the 1700s and 1800s, particularly in Europe and the Americas. A man named John Cleves Sims, in 1818, wrote a pamphlet titled Circular Number. One in which he proposed that there were 2 pathways to the hollow center of the Earth, one at the North Pole and the other at the South Pole. If people could dig deep enough, they might find these paths and enter a new world. Sims was eager to make this happen and called for 100 brave volunteers to help him dig and uncover these hidden realms. He promised them riches, populated worlds, and a strange reward: thrifty vegetables. It seems the potential for wealth was initially seen through agricultural produce rather than gold. While many might dismiss this as an absurd idea, it was far from outlandish for President Adams. There is some debate about whether Adams truly believed in the Hollow Earth theory, or if he simply saw it as a chance to explore the North and South Poles. Unfortunately, when President Adams was voted out of office in favor of Andrew Jackson, who was more concerned with surface-level issues, government funding for the mission ceased. Sims passed away a few years later, never achieving his dream of meeting the mole people or harvesting thrifty vegetables. Adams' Hollow Earth expedition might not have been the most outlandish presidential mission, however. In the Cold War, the US government spent millions of dollars on a highly unconventional mission, a psychic spying program known as Operation Stargate. Traditional espionage was effective, but also dangerous. So, in the Cold War, the US military established Operation Stargate, a program where about 10 to 15 individuals were trained in a psychological exercise called remote viewing. Remote viewing is, essentially, psychic spying. It allows individuals to use their minds to find intelligence targets such as missile silos, military bases, and ballistic missile submarines without putting agents at risk in enemy territory. The US government's interest in extrasensory perception, ESP, dates back to the 1950s. But it gained traction in the 1960s and 1970s, especially as there were rumors that the Soviet Union was also experimenting with these abilities. Did psychic spying actually work? Remarkably, the results were far better than mere chance. Estimates suggest the program's success rate was as high as 70 to 80%. Among the standout performers was Joseph McMoneagle. During his remote viewing sessions, McMoneagle described seeing a large submarine being constructed deep in the Soviet Union, 6 months before it was made public. Another top performer, Pat Price, was able to infiltrate a Soviet nuclear research facility. Price even claimed to have seen a particle beam weapon under development, a weapon that could shoot down satellites. Despite its success, Operation Stargate never really gained full momentum. The CIA eventually decided to shut it down in 1995, though some believe it continues in secret, possibly under a black operation, hidden in the private sector. In a completely different chapter, in the early 20th century, a bizarre loophole in the US postal system allowed parents to mail their children. In 1913, the US Postal Service began accepting packages that weighed more than 4 pounds, which led people to experiment with mailing unusual items. They shipped things like bricks, eggs, and even chickens simply to test the system. In January 1913, a family from Ohio, the Bossiers, decided to mail their son, using a 15-cent postage stamp, to his grandmother, who lived about a mile away. Astonishingly, it worked. Once this discovery became known, a small trend began where parents sent their children through the mail. Between 1913 and 1915, at least 7 families mailed their children. One notable instance was when a girl was mailed from Florida to Virginia, a journey of 720 miles. However, this unusual practice didn't last long. The U.S. Postmaster General, not finding the situation humorous, outlawed the mailing of children in 1915, thus ending one of the most bizarre chapters in postal history.